Good morning. Today's webinar, SmartStart Buildings Upfront Approval for Ready Application Submission, is brought to you by New Jersey's Clean Energy Program and the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities. My name is Jim Friedel, and I'm an Outreach Account Manager for New Jersey's Clean Energy Program, and I'll be acting as facilitator for today's event. First, I'd like to take care of a little bit of housekeeping. Today, we'll be taking the attendees through the application process, and we'll be touching on specific areas that can benefit from some additional information. We are going to have the attendees on mute throughout the presentation, but encourage you to submit questions as they come to you via the control panel on your screen. We'll address your questions in real time, and then also again at the end of the presentation. If we don't get to your question live, or if you have a more detailed question that you would like answered, we'll be supplying you with the contact information for the outreach team and also an email address that you can reach out to us. We can get you in touch with case management if that's required and get your questions answered. We'll also be recording today's webinar, and links to that recording will be provided once it is uploaded to the Clean Energy Learning Center website. Today, we're joined by Karen Payne, who, like myself, is also from TRC. Karen is a SmartStart Buildings project manager and will be acting as the application navigator during this webinar. She'll be providing some details on the application and particulars on utility bills that will help you submit a complete and accurate application. Before we get started, we'd like to first say that we understand what a challenging time this is for everyone, especially for businesses. And we want to emphasize that New Jersey's Clean Energy Program is doing everything it can to support you during this period and through the recovery. Please know that, as always, outreach account managers, program staff, and case managers are available to you to answer your questions. As all of you can appreciate, things are changing day by day and minute by minute. We may not have the answers at our fingertips, but we'll do our best to get you the latest information. As I mentioned earlier, this program is administered by the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, as many of you may know. The funding for the program is supplied through a line item fee that is on each regulated utility bill's billing statement. It's called the Societal Benefits Charge, or in some cases, it's designated as the SBC on your bill. As is the purpose of this webinar, a good deal of the Clean Energy Program's effort is focused on educating the business and residential markets of the importance and financial benefits of being energy efficient. The aim is that through a combination of education and financial grants, the Clean Energy Program can provide an environment which encourages its constituents to invest in efficiency, which is an important part of reaching the governor's goal of 100% clean energy by 2050. So with that bit of background, I'm going to go ahead and hand over control to Karen. And Karen, please let me know if you are in control now and can take us through the application.
Okay, good morning. My name is Karen Payne, and I wanted to provide you with some information on the New Jersey Clean Energy SmartStart application process and offer some guidance on how to submit your application to be reviewed as smoothly as possible. Incentives are available to commercial and gas customers of the following utilities: Atlantic City Electric, Jersey Central Power and Light, PSE&G, Rockland Electric, New Jersey Natural Gas, Elizabethtown and Gas, and South Jersey Gas. To qualify, the customer must be commercially billed and pay into the Societal Benefits Charge. I have a few examples of some bills to show you where that charge is. This is an example of it, a PSE&G bill. Customer name will be here, account number, their service address. And then they will also have on their billing center the rate code and Societal Benefits Charge. Also have a JCP&L bill, customer name and address, account number, and their rate code and Societal Benefits Charge. The program has incentives for several different types of technologies. All the applications are listed on the website. The application type is here on the left, and the measure worksheet is on the right, and both are required in order to apply for the incentives. Prescriptive lighting, performance lighting, lighting controls, with an incentive of equal to or greater than $100,000, that's including any enhanced incentive, must be approved prior to installation, and all custom measures must be approved prior to installation. The application can be submitted through the online portal, mail, email, fax. Applications that do not require pre-approval prior to installation must be submitted within 12 months of equipment purchase. Prescriptive lighting is the most popular application, so I use that as our example. All of the applications look similar. Each application has application instructions, application checklists, process for payment checklist, and a requirements page. To complete the application, you will need the customer's gas or utility bill. The type of bill you will need is dependent on the type of measure you're applying for. Electric technology would need an electric bill. Gas technology would need a gas bill. It's an example of what the application looks like. It's 2 pages. The information in the shaded box needs to be completed. The company name should match what is listed on the utility bills. Several of the fields are drop-down, so we ask that you select the appropriate for your customer. The NAICS code. This is a standard used to classify businesses, and it's used for statistical purposes. That information can be found on the NAICS webpage. You would first look for the industry title, and then once you click on that, it'll give you a little bit more information on each industry. And that field that we ask you to fill out on the application here would be 6 numbers. The box that says multi-site project. This is for applicants that have 2 or more projects occurring around the same time but are at different locations. It's only available for prescriptive lighting. The benefit is you will only need to fill out 1 application, but you would need a utility bill for all of the locations or all the facilities. The facility must be owned by a single entity. They must share the same tax ID, the same name. And you'll be required to use a multi-site incentive worksheet instead of the prescriptive lighting one. The next section on the application is the enhanced incentives. To qualify for the enhanced incentive, the customer must be in an urban enterprise zone, an opportunity zone, or a K through 12 school, a municipal or county entity. New construction and custom do not qualify for the enhanced incentive. The enhanced incentive will double the incentive amount of whatever is listed on the worksheet. We ask that you read the criteria for each type of eligibility, and then they all have a little blue spot where you could check to find out if your customer qualifies. Here is the New Jersey Community Asset Map. This is used for UEZ or OZ, Urban Enterprise Zone or Opportunity Zone. It will require you to put in the customer's address as listed on their utility bill. Okay, so you would agree to this. You would check off Opportunity Zone. This would be an example. And it comes up in colors. So you see here it's kind of a purplish color. So once you put in the address and hit enter, if your customer was located in an Opportunity Zone, it would be in a purple section looking like this, or an Urban Enterprise Zone would be in a shaded area of this color. Now you want to make sure you take a screenshot of this because we require that you submit this with your application, showing that you searched and you did find that that customer did qualify for one of those zones. Let me just get the application page. Okay, the contractor section. If you would like your contractor to be copied on any of the paperwork or any of the emails sent from our office, we ask that you fill this area out entirely. The payee information, that's very important that you fill that out entirely, and that's obviously for whom you would like the check to be paid. You can put your contractor here. You can put anybody you would like to be paid the incentive. The ESIP section. For further information on this, please check with our website. It's the Energy Savings Improvement Program, and more information on that could be found on this page, on the web page. The signature section on the application. Here, usually the customer signs that. If someone other than the customer signs that, we do ask for a letter of authorization, and we provide an example that you can use here on our webpage. And now we're going to move on to worksheet. To complete the worksheet, you will need the manufacturer's specification, a screen print from either the DLC or Energy Star qualified product list, and the measure code from the application. These are the measure codes for prescriptive lighting. And then you also might want to have with you the LED requirements page, so you know which of your LEDs qualify. Let me just open the prescriptive lighting worksheet for you. This is available on the web page. The worksheet should be completed from top to bottom, from left to right. These are the measure codes that I was just speaking of. So in order to determine what the measure code is, you would need your manufacturer specification, and then you would visit either the DLC or Energy Star qualified product list. And a link to both of those are on the application. An example is if you had this LED, you would want to know the exact model number that you would be looking for on DLC. We ask that you highlight them so that when you submit your application to us, we know the exact model that you're proposing. You would take this number, go onto the DLC list, enter that information, and here you would see the manufacturer's name. The model number is up here, and the primary use and the wattage. This primary use would be matched up to one of the measure codes. In this case, the primary use for that is parking garage. That would be PL33. So you would start by entering the PL33. This is automatically populates. Then you would put the location of your fixture, interior, exterior, the type of fixture that you're removing, the quantity that you're removing, and then you'd enter the information about the fixture you're proposing to install, the manufacturer and model number, and the wattage, which is taken from the DLC, and the quantity that you're planning to install, and the incentive would populate. Another example from the Energy Star fixture. You would, again, highlight the model number, visit the Energy Star list, find that. That's a downlight, recessed downlight. The wattage is here. Again, you would take that information. That's a PL52 from the measure codes and fill out the worksheet. Any questions?
Yeah, we did have a question regarding the various lists, the DLC or the Energy Star list. Do you have a preference as to which list I use to qualify my lighting, DLC or Energy Star?
The LED will only be found on one of those lists. So please check both.
Okay. There is another question. What if I cannot find the product I'd like to use on either the DLC or Energy Star site, but I have been assured by the manufacturer that they are on one or the other? So I guess This is where they're working with a manufacturer that has said, yeah, we're there, we're DLC listed, you should find us, but we're having trouble locating it. What do you suggest?
Okay, sometimes the DLC list can be a little bit tricky. So when you go into the search bar, sometimes a dash or a space in the model number can make it very difficult to find. So we ask that you type in a few letters or numbers, and then on the bottom, it will populate, and then gradually keep adding in the next number or letter on your spec sheet. And then sometimes that helps. And for Energy Star, there's actually a way to download it as an Excel worksheet. And I find if you download it as the Excel worksheet, you can see all of the LEDs that qualify, and it's easier to search by model number or manufacturer name or even type that way. Another thing is just because the logo is on one of the spec sheets, please look it up to confirm that it qualifies, because periodically DLC and Energy Star update their qualifying LEDs, and some get added and some get removed.
Okay, great. We do have another question. Is there a limit to the number of fixtures or lamps that can be applied for in a single project application?
Now, when you're saying the number of, we do not have any limit to the amount of LEDs you can apply for. However, there is a maximum incentive per calendar year of $500,000 per entity. Does that answer the question?
I think it does, yeah.
Okay. But remember, it's a one-for-one incentive. So if your number of existing fixtures is 4 and you're planning to install 5, the incentive would only be paid for the 4.
Okay, perfect. I think that handles the questions for this section.
Okay. I also wanted to give you a little information on the multi-site worksheet, because it does look different than the prescriptive lighting worksheet. Okay, for the multi-site worksheet, it's 2 pages. Okay, on the first page, it's in the information about the customer, which you would get from the bills that you have. So column B would be a unique identifier for each of the buildings, meaning that if you were an apartment complex and all the buildings had a number, you would want to use that as the unique indicator for each building, because that's going to transfer onto the second page, the building numbers here. Okay, so from here again, left to right, address from the bill, city, state, zip, and a contact information for that person, and the incentive will populate here once you complete page 2. Same idea, where you would look up the LED on the DLC list. You would also need the spec sheet and or qualifying product list from Energy Star or DLC. Measure code comes from the application, and once you enter that, that would populate here, and you would put your quantity and wattages over to the right. Incentive would be here and then also on the first page. Once your application is completed, you have all the supporting documents. Please check on the application. There's a checklist telling you what you should be submitting with your application. Let's see, right here, application checklist. Make sure when you submit the application, you have all these documents with it. You can submit it through the online portal, email, mail, fax. Where to submit your application, it's listed on all the applications, but you can send it to the email address, our mailing address, our fax number. What happens after you submit your application is within 2 to 3 business days after your project is received by our office, the contacts listed will receive an email. The email will include the application number, the name, the measure, facility address. Shortly thereafter, the application would be assigned to a case manager. It will be reviewed for completeness. If the case manager has any questions or concerns, they would reach out to the contacts listed by email, and our program refers to those as a deficiency email. And that would say whatever information we need to complete your application. If your application comes in complete, the next step would be receiving an approval email. Now, depending on if your application came in with the invoices, the tax clearance, and the W-9, and it's ready for closeout, would determine what kind of approval letter you would get. So, for instance, if your application came in without any of the closeout documents, you would receive the standard approval letter of, hi, your project is approved, the amount, the estimated amount, and the date that your project expires. All projects are given 1 year. And also on this Email will indicate what we need and how it needs to be submitted in order for your project to be paid. If your project was submitted with all the closeout documents, there would be a different type of approval email sent to you. It could be, one, your project's in post-review on the back-end list, meaning that a closeout case manager is going to review that document, and if they need anything, they will reach out to you. Or if that's all sufficient, you might get an email that says your project's out for inspection, and then one of our inspection coordinators would contact those listed on the application to make a time and a date to come out and do that inspection. Or you would get the email to say, hey, this is the amount that your project was approved for, and it's gone on to payment, and you should get a check, within 60 to 90 days. Any questions on the closeout or approval process?
There was one question on the letters that come out. Does the contractor need to be on the application, or can they just be notified by their customer that they received an email and don't know how to proceed? So, and I think that, Karen, you and I have both dealt with this in the past, where typically the customer will reach out to the contractor and ask, hey, what's the status? Or I got a letter, what do I do? So I think that question is related to how do people ensure that they are on the distribution?
If you put your contractor name and email on the application, they will receive a copy of all correspondence. If they're not listed on that, then it would be up to the customer to inform their contractor of any needs. And if a contractor calls our office and they are not listed on the application, we're not able to share any information about the project. So that's why if you want us to discuss your project with the contractor or send them correspondence, it's important to put them on the application.
So you had mentioned something regarding the letters. This is a question from me. You had mentioned something regarding the letters and the fact that if someone submits all the documentation. I know that the presentation today was covering how do you handle submitting an application, an upfront, as you say, application. We do have time, so are you going to be able to take us through what it takes to close out and what all those remaining documents look like?
Sure. I'm not able to share an example of an invoice because they're for each project, but I can tell you what is needed on each invoice. And then we could talk a little bit about the tax clearance. Okay, just give me a second and I will get that information for, closeout documents. Okay, on each application, there's a checklist about application process for payment. If you have pre-approval, you get your approval letter, then you do the job. You might have an as-built that is different, meaning that maybe you use different fixtures or maybe a different quantity. We ask that if that is the case, you send us in a new worksheet with your closeout documents. However, if you did the job, you submitted everything at the same time, an as-built worksheet would not be needed. Okay, our program needs a material invoice, a labor invoice, a tax clearance, and the tax clearance is for the applicant, the customer listed on the utility bill, and that's important. The W-9, ST5, or ST4, that's for the payee. So for the material invoice, the invoice should include the model number, the quantity, and unit price. And that's basically what you submitted on your worksheet. So the model number listed on your worksheet, the quantity should be listed on the invoice, and the unit price would be the cost that was for the customer. Also needed is a date on that invoice, because in order for an incentive to be paid, the purchase date cannot be more than 12 months from the date you submitted the application. And that's the date our office received that application. The labor invoice, the labor portion needs to be separate from the material. It could be on the same page, it just has to be separated. Okay, if your customer self-installed, that needs to be in writing from them, saying that they self-installed and the date of the start and completion of the project. The tax clearance. Now, the tax clearance comes from the state. Our office does not have any information on that for the customers, but the link is on the application here. Let me bring up that page. Okay, So on our webpage is information about the tax clearance certificate. It's applied for online. You would click here. Now, this is as far as I can go showing this because most of the information after this, requires information about the customer, a login, ID, password. However, there is a page here bring that up for you, from the Division of Taxation that provides a little bit more information on detailed instructions on how to navigate through that page. I can share that, or you can call our office for that information if you're not able to find that. The tax clearance is basically saying that your customer does not owe any taxes to the state. And this is an example of what it looks like. The name and address of the customer will be here. This date is important because they're only valid for 180 days. And then this number here would be 3 digits of the applicant's tax ID. That number must match what's on their application. There is a spot on the application for the customer's tax ID. The W-9 is for the payee, or the ST4, ST5, and this is an example of what the W-9 looks like.
Yeah, we did get this is, I think, just a clarification again. So you need tax certificates for the incentive applicant and payee if they are different people, or is just the applicant that needs the tax certificate?
The tax clearance is just for the applicant or the customer, the one listed on the utility bill. We don't need it for the payee unless the payee is the same. If the payee is the contractor, we need the contractor's W-9. If the payee is the customer, we would need a W-9 for them.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was all the questions for that particular area.
That's all I had, unless there's something on your side or any other questions.
There was one that came in that referred back to the enhanced incentives.
Okay.
And I think it was, you had mentioned enhanced incentives. Can you go over how much they are and how I can find out if I'm eligible again?
Okay.
Oh, I guess they mean, can you go over that section again?
Okay, sure. Okay, the enhanced incentive is double the amount of the project. So if your project is $500, the enhanced incentive would bring that to $1,000. Now, to determine if your project qualifies, this page here is on every application, and the community asset map is used for the UEZ and OZ, and you would log on to that. And there is a section where you would put the customer's address, and that address comes from the bill. Once you enter that information, if the customer is in an urban enterprise or an opportunity zone, the screen would appear similar to this. It would show the applicant's address, and it's color-coded. So the shaded in tan would be the UEZ, and then this color here, the purple color, would be the OZ. Okay, so here's it opened up. You'd agree to this. You check off here for opportunity zone, and then you would put your address in here for the customer. Let's just take an example here and see what. Okay, so if you see here, this customer is not in the shade of the purple. And here's the one for urban enterprise, which is this color or that color. So this customer is not in one of those zones. See if I can try. Yeah, I'm just putting in a few addresses to search,
Right.
Show you how that works. Now,
here's a question. Have you ever come across issues where the property listed, or the flag, if you will, on the map is right on the edge of an opportunity zone and an urban enterprise zone, or is it pretty clear whether or not they would fall into either?
Yes, sometimes they are. Sometimes they appear to be on the border of not qualifying and qualifying. So if that's the case, give our office a call and we can help you navigate that a little bit further to see if we can indeed see that they're in the correct zone.
Okay. That's all I had for the urban enterprise and opportunity zone. I did get another question regarding the tax clearance certificates. You had mentioned that they are good for 180 days. If I don't get it up front and I can't get it before the application is about to expire, what do I do?
Okay. The application has a year from approval to completion. At the time of expiration, you'll receive an expiration notice from our office. That notice will tell you what you need to do as far as what we need in our office. And if you don't have that information, please ask your customer submit something in writing for an extension. That will give you another 6 months to obtain any information that you need. And again, if 6 months go by and you can't get that, send in another request for extension and the program would be able to provide another 6-month extension.
Question: if you are provided with all of the details you need to approve the application, including closeout documentation, all at once, how long will it take to get the incentive paid?
Okay, the incentive payment is based on when our office approves it for payment. So when it's approved for payment in our office, it would take between 60 and 90 days.
Another question: can prescriptive lighting projects be submitted for up to 12 months after the install, or are only pre-approved projects able to do that?
Okay. So I'm not sure if I understand that. Okay, so you have 12 months from the purchase of a project for lighting under $100,000 or lighting controls, performance lighting, to submit your application. So if I was to purchase it today, I have until next year, this same time, to submit my application. If I haven't purchased my equipment, I submit my application today. I have from today, I submit my application, it's approved today. Today's the day of my approval letter. I have 12 months from today to purchase it. Does that answer that question?
I think it does, yeah. And I think it was a kind of a, is it installed or is it a date of purchase sort of clarification? So I think you did answer it.
Yeah, it's the date of purchase. But we also need to know the installation date on your invoice. That's actually information to us that you the lighting or whatever technology is installed.
Okay. I think that answers all the questions. Obviously, that's still open. Karen, I'm going to take back the presentation duties just for a second so I can put up some details about contact information. So again, if you need to reach us either during or before or after your application, there's a couple different ways to do that. You can call the 866 number listed. I have on this particular slide the outreach email address that goes to all of the regional account managers. And if we can't answer the question, we can engage one of the project managers like Karen. There are a number of them that work on the SmartStart Buildings applications. Some of them specialize. Karen is our specialist, certainly with lighting. So we can get that question answered for you. And just a couple of other resources for you regarding the newsletter and listserv, so you're updated with the most recent information about what's going on with the program, how program details may change, all that sort of thing. So just for your reference. And again, as I mentioned, this particular webinar has been recorded. And once we get that over to the Clean Energy Learning Center, we will be sending out a follow-up email so you can reference this going forward. And again, please don't hesitate to reach out either by phone or email to any of us. And if you have questions or concerns, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So with that, I would like to thank everyone online for joining us. Karen, thank you very much for presenting the application and taking us through the process and getting into some of the details that I think can sometimes trip folks up just because, like with anything, the application process is a little bit complicated, but certainly manageable. So again, thank you, Karen, and everyone on the phone. Everyone, please be safe and have a great day.